Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Green. I'm the pastor of Lomax Temple here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where we're taking ministry to the max by reaching up, reaching out, and reaching in. Tonight is our community forum, informative and informal. We apologize for being a little late, but we wanted to make sure we had everything perfect. I have with me tonight my special guest, Ms. Tanya Coates. She is the president of the Knoxville Teachers Association, and she's the vice president of the Tennessee Teachers Association. And she's a home girl, and she's related. She's cousin, so we just gonna have a good time tonight. So I wanted to just bring this to you because we think it's so important. Kids are about to start school next week, and it's so important that we get this thing right. How do we social distance? And I thought it would be a good idea, a great idea to bring Ms. Coates on. I say Tanya. I bring her on, Sister Tanya, on to come and share with you, give you some ideas, and just let her talk to us about some best practices and what we need to know if you have kids that are school age, or maybe you might be a grandparent or aunt, a cousin, but to share this information, we want you to get it out to people. So I'm just going to kind of turn it over to Tanya. And if you have questions, we need questions in the questions. So we're live tonight. So send us some questions. And so let's start off. Tanya, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Doing good.
I want to thank you and saying it's an honor and a privilege to be here and to share with the community what educators and public education is going to go through as we're getting ready, and we're so anxious to have students come back to school, but particularly what's affecting our communities and what we need to be aware of and how we can assist them in this unprecedented time as we think about sending our students. If you decided to send your child back to school, what you need to know, and if you didn't, what you need to know on your end as being a virtual learner at home. But as he stated earlier, as Mark stated earlier, that we're cousins, so my cousins used to always mess with me all the time about my name. And my grandfather loved the music singer Tanya Tucker.
Okay.
But my name is Tanya.
Okay.
And
we'll just say Tanya.
my cousins always, they still to this day, still call me Tanya.
But
and I'm
I
like,
know
my
it's
name
Tanya.
is Tanya. They mess with me, even to this day, even to my
sorry.
age. But it's still, as an educator, I'm one of those that, with the ruler, came out and said, my name is.
Okay.
So, but that's all right.
We get no pig. I ain't gonna get no big tea on you tonight. But yeah. But just so tonight, schools go back. Tell us a little bit about how it's gonna come together next week.
So you know that we have had 3 start dates. If you hadn't kept up with Knox County, if you're still on vacation, we need you to come on back because we anticipate of going back to school on Monday. This we first had been that students were supposed to go back to school on August the 10th, but unfortunately, we still didn't have all the devices. You know, the district became a 1-to-1 device district, and we didn't have all of those resources available as of August the 10th. So we moved it back to August the 17th. We, meaning the Knox County school system. I don't own anything from the school system. I don't pay anyone's paycheck. But what I try to ensure is that educators are going to get paid as it's related to working for the school system. So on the 17th, when that date rolled around, we weren't able to, our educators felt that we were not equipped enough to start school.
Okay.
And they're still, to this day, those devices were not here yet.
Oh.
So we were getting them trickling in moment by moment.
Okay.
So hopefully, to this day, I know that some are not all in yet, but we're hoping that they are in. So as we're getting ready for the 24th, these are some of the things that I would ask that the community, if you have school-age children that are part of the public school system, you need to make sure your school has a dissemination. They had a dissemination day in the last 2 weeks. So if they have not received their device, they need to check with the school and see if they have their 1-to-1 devices, because it's not only going to be, you're going to need that necessity as it relates to being Either if you're a virtual student, and that means that you're going to learn at home. But if you're an in-person student, you're going to need that device, because at any moment we could actually change to a red district, meaning that everybody is going to be at home learning, and you got to have that device. So we're asking parents to make sure that they have that one-to-one device, because
Okay.
the district spent $7 million
To make sure every student.
to make sure every student, and believe it or not, some educators, there was a third of our educators that did not have devices, so they were part of that $7 million.
Hold on. So, okay. So we won't even
Yes,
address. So educators.
Educators.
Didn't have devices.
Educators didn't have devices because we, in public education, were not funded
Okay.
totality, and most of us purchased our own devices.
Right.
When we have tax-free weekends, that's what we did. We purchased our own devices to make sure that we're ready for our students. So
Okay.
COVID has done some favors for public educators.
Okay. Okay.
To open the eyes of what we were missing. So parents or the community never knew that educators did not have all the resources in their classroom. Most people made the assumption that every classroom in our district had computers.
And that's not true.
It's not true.
That's not true.
We
That's not
had
true.
to use $7 million to actually make sure that it's true now.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And it's not that we own it. We're actually renting them.
Wow.
So that's even worse.
So let me ask you, what age group are you talking about for students taking computers on?
Every single student in the Knox County District is supposed to have a one-to-one device. That means 60,000 plus students.
Even kindergartners?
Even kindergartners, they won't have most of the devices will be something like your laptop, which is called a Chromebook. It's already
Okay.
the internet embedded in that technology. But even kindergartners will either have a tablet or they'll have something that's developmentally appropriate for them, meaning a tablet they can flip, they can run their fingers over and be able to use that in the classroom. So
So I
they're
guess if
supposed to-
babies can play with your phone and scroll it, I guess they figure pre-K and kindergarten kids can do the same thing.
Our students in Knox County and across this United States, our kids are coming well equipped, better than I am.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they
Oh,
could
way
tell me
better.
how to use my cell phone and some things I never knew it could do.
That's true.
Even the little 2 and 3-year-olds that I have at my house, they can take pictures, and I'm trying to figure out where am I hearing clicking. They've already turned my camera on my phone
And they
and started
already-
taking their picture, and I'm like, hey, that's mine.
Yeah.
But you know, at 2 and 3, everything's theirs. But
Oh, yeah.
they know how to do that. So we can't worry about them not being able to utilize it, because they can utilize it.
Okay, okay. So next week, so when kids start back to school next week, what will that experience like? What is it going to look like in the schools as far as separation and all that kind of stuff? What is that going to look like, kind of, sort of?
So here's another challenge that COVID is going to present to themselves. So you know that the criteria from the CDC, or you may not know that the criteria from the CDC and the health department, and Dr. Fascia, if you've heard him, Fassa on the daily, that he's talked about, in order to have schools go back and be successful, we got to have these criteria. We've got to make sure that students' temperatures are checked, that they social distance, and that those are some of the main criteria, or they have the personal protective equipment that they need, meaning
Okay.
mask at school. So what you can anticipate is, yes, they will provide masks if students do not have them. I know
Okay.
that the business of mask making went into full effect about April.
Okay.
Everybody was making masks.
Everybody was making
But
masks.
just know that if your child does not have a mask, that the school will be able to provide one for them.
Okay.
It's one that's provided through the health department. It's got jerry cloth material, but it's supposed to be protective enough to cover their mouth. If they don't have one, they'll make sure they'll provide one for them.
Okay.
In regards to, they will be, before any child enters the school system or enters the building of a public school, they will have to have their temperature checked. So what this district has done is, for every 40 students, there is, they've equipped the school with a thermometer,
Okay.
so that they can take the long range and scan students.
Will
head.
teachers be doing that?
And I'm going to pin that.
Okay.
Yes, teachers will be doing that, is because it's considered a duty, as just if they had to do bus duty or like cafeteria duty.
Okay.
That's going to be a
Okay.
duty that we have to do. But I'm going to pin that, why it's going to be challenging. I'm going to ask parents in the community to help us out on that. And then social distancing. This is a challenge. Most of our brick and mortar buildings are not equipped for social distancing. I actually went to a school
Okay.
and tried to move desks 6 feet apart. And an average classroom, if we did that, could hold about 10 to 12 desks in a classroom. That means that you take everything out of a classroom. If you want to, most families or educators were used to having a desk in their classroom, file cabinet. It means everything must come out. Now, we can't work with that because there's stations that have to have laptops. So kids will not be social distance at school. They just will not be able to be social.
Just not going to be able to. It's just not logistically possible.
It is not logistically possible when we have close to 50,000 kids that are going to come back to the school system. We're at capacity. If we had 60,000, we're well above capacity of a lot of our buildings in Knox County. So if parents didn't know that, they will know that their kid was going to be sitting as close as we are, even though, I've been tested and I
I've
know
been
that,
tested. Yeah.
that I try to make sure every day that I do this requirements about washing my hands frequently, wearing a mask and trying to social distance, and limit the capacity. So there's no more than 4 of us in a building, where in a classroom there's going to be close to anywhere from 25 to 30 people in a classroom. And they just need to be well aware. Thus why I said we had a pin about the social distancing and about mask. So as the community and parents, we need to ensure that we're not sending our kids to school sick.
Right.
Meaning, I know that's hard to hear. I know when I taught in a classroom, and I know that I wanted to be there to teach my classroom kids.
Right.
But now we've got to think differently, right? As a parent, if I had to send my kids to school, and I need to make sure they don't have, if my kids were notorious for this, to saying, I don't feel well, okay?
That sounds so familiar.
You have to really now take that into account. We're going to have to start taking our temperature of our own kids at home, making sure, because that's a true indication that they have come in contact with COVID,
Right.
or they have the flu, is a temperature. If a child has a temperature, it's the onset of something.
Some virus.
Some virus.
Okay.
And so it's going to be the flu or COVID, which I hope it's not COVID because it's a lot more deadlier than the flu. And I would hope that parents, we just can't be sending them to school like that, as they are scanning kids as they're coming in. And then they're going to have a path for well kids. I don't know if doctors' offices do this now. There's a side for well kids, and then there's a side for sick kids. But you ask me, who's taking these temperatures? Classroom teachers are taking these temperatures.
Oh, goodness.
And we will be exposing our hard-to-staff educators
To sick kids.
sick kids if we send kids to school sick. I know people want to get back to work, but there are some safeguards. There are some things that people can do without sending their kids to a building of affecting a lot more than just, because now you're not only affecting the teacher, but you're affecting the teacher's family, and you're affecting the teacher's classroom. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
so
lot.
it's a lot.
One of the questions was simple. One of the parents, he said, how are you going to keep a mask on the smaller kids? I know that's probably the teacher's responsibility, but what can parents do to because the kid can only be as successful. This is just as the parents guide them at home. Some education has to go on at home.
So that's the key. You gave us that's the key to mandating kids keeping on masks. It's going to take practicing. I know that we have 4 days before school starts. You're behind the curveball if you hadn't been practicing with your kids.
4 days.
Yes, so Monday morning, it's going to come
Whew.
quick. Thursday,
Goodness.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you wake up Monday morning, it's going to be the beginning of the end. If you weren't practicing with your child since April, you should have been taking them to the store with a mask on.
Right.
You should have been taking them anywhere you have went with a mask on. But if we have a mindset as parents that we don't even want to wear a mask, so now you're gonna send them in an environment they're gonna require a mask.
Right.
Because now it's a requirement that you must keep. It's part of their uniformity of school that they're gonna keep on mask. Now, we don't want to suspend kids over,
Right.
even younger kids, but it's gonna take practice at home first.
To do that.
Because we can't scold kids. Educators don't whoop kids, and I've encouraged educators to do this, that, if a child doesn't, that's the onus on parents. They're going to have to take some ownership now.
Okay.
This is true ownership. They're going to have to take some ownership of that. However, I also try to help educators see this. Once they pass our measures of having their temperature checked at school, we've got to have the understanding and wherewithal knowing that when they go into the school system that they are not infected and that their masks are going to come off. Because we always have these memes or the envisioning that kids are sharing, swapping masks. And,
Yeah.
when you turn your back and you're, passing out something, you don't know who's over here swapping a mask.
Right.
So we're just going to have this faith that.
I can see kids taking off their mask between classes.
Yes.
I can see them just popping that mask off, walking through crowded halls with no mask on. As soon as they get in the classroom, or as soon as they see a teacher, because if you're looking at a place like, my son goes to Fulton, you see how crowded the hallways are between classes. So you can see, and teachers are trying to get to their class. So you can kind of see how it would be easy for kids, just pop it off and keep going. So to be able to encourage kids and be able to inform kids and parents on how important it is, because you don't want to get sick. I mean, this virus is nothing to play with. You don't want to get sick, and you don't want to die. And I hear somebody saying, yeah, that's 7.5 hours. I'm sitting there looking at some of the comments for kids to wear masks. Now, they won't be required to wear masks at lunchtime.
No, because that's, again, if you go to the restaurants, you've got to take your mask off. You can't eat through there. So they will have mask off. They will be allowed to take mask off during recess. And we're trying to find different opportunities within the school system to have outdoor classrooms whenever feasible, right?
Okay.
Because fresh air is supposed to be known to help students have their clear minds, and the fresh air helping generate in the classroom of just not being cooped up. But it won't be a continuous of 7 hours of students keeping on a mask.
Right.
But this is where we are. I mean, I know we had, trying to do a seesaw effect of saying half the people want their kids to go back to school face-to-face and half do not want them to go back face-to-face. And then so we've got to have somebody to educate them. But this is what we have. We have 6-7 hours of learning that must go on.
Right.
And we've got to figure out. So there will be some tweaking, I know, in the first week or two. So kids, they're going to.
So tell me how many kids are going back to school. How many kids have actually signed up to go back to school Monday of the 60,000
So
kids?
there are about 46,000 plus kids that have signed up to go back to school. And that was just as of last week. Now, granted that some parents said that they didn't get the communication and they're still trying to negotiate putting their kids on virtual, but by and large, majority of the students are going back face to face. And I know what parents think. I mean, I heard this last week, and I have to adjust my seat because
Okay.
what happens is, because I'm getting ready to say something that parents, they think that we're glorified babysitters.
Yeah.
No, we are not
Not at all.
glorified babysitters. Some of us have degrees, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 3 degrees, okay? And some of us have up to 4 degrees. We do not are there. We are not there to just babysit
So your
kids.
babysitting is not you don't have a degree in babysitting?
No, if I had a babysitting degree, I would, in all honesty, when you think about it, daycares get paid way more daycare workers get paid way more than what educators get paid.
Wow.
And
That's
if you
amazing.
had some comparison and people want to go back and look at that, when you think of that you're paying on a weekly basis, you're paying about a minimum of $125 per child per week to a daycare for one child, and they have anywhere from 10 to 15 kids in one setting of one kid. They're getting paid a lot more than an educator is getting paid on an hourly, daily, and weekly basis. So we do not make that kind of money, even though we would love to have that competitive salary. Or
We're working on it.
we're working on it, but it doesn't look promising in the next week. So next 4 days. So.
No raise in the next 4 days.
Hey, there's not a raise this year. That's another thing. Most companies, even if you think about Knox County employees, they received a raise, but not this year. Is one of those hurtful years that we are still 37th in the state of Tennessee in regards to teacher salary, starting salary, and for us to have close to us, to have Blount County and some of these other counties around us be number one, it's hurtful here in Knox County.
Yeah, it is.
To get that.
Easily recruited away from
That means those 4,000 plus educators in Knox County schools really love their kids.
That's true. That's true.
They really love their kids.
That's true.
So,
going into communities, we're in the community of Lonsdale.
Yes.
So Lonsdale has some needs that are unique. We live in a food desert. There is a lot of, I don't want to say lack, but there are a lot of kids in this community. You're looking at Lonsdale Elementary. You're looking at Sammy Hill School. There are a lot of opportunities to provide resources to these schools that are going back, because we know that the kids are going back to school. A lot of them will be ill-equipped for what's going to happen.
that is so true. Ironically, I taught in this community for 12 years.
Okay.
At Lonsdale Elementary. So
So you
some
know.
of the challenges that are present today they were present almost 22 years ago when I started teaching in Knox County schools. And I've been teaching well over 25 years in education, but 22 years ago, it's still prevalent today, and it's unfortunate that we have an area in our in Knox County that is being they're not being serviced too well, and that I know that the dynamics of this community have changed a bunch, where the Hispanic community has risen, or just people of color have not only just the blacks in this community, but now it's a diverse amongst this community.
Africans, you have Guatemalans, you have Hispanics, you have a large group of black and brown people who are immigrants who now live in Lonsdale, as well as those you have black kids, white kids. You have a mix of kids, and all of them, and social economics are in play here. So, going into the school year, what are some opportunities for? And you might, I'm sure there are churches listening. I'm sure there are other nonprofits listening. What are some ways we can help alleviate some of the stress that some of these, because I know they're underfunded. We know they are. So, what are some ways we can help the administrators, the principals, the teachers? What are some ways we can help them? And this is ministry. This is my part. This is what I like.
Yes.
So this is the ministry part. What do we do to help those that don't have, alleviate or help fill in those gaps? What do you think we can do? What are some strategies we can use?
So several strategies. I always tell people this. This is what one way that they can help. We used to have the old school that it takes a community or it takes a village to. Our villages have been obsolete. We don't take care of each other, right?
Right.
And we know that there are families that do not have meals on a daily basis. So what the faith community could do, or community businesses or other stakeholders in the area, is they can actually make sure that they are providing resources that they may need. So as you said, that administrators, right now, we have no clue what we're going to, what tomorrow's going to face. Right?
Okay, okay.
Something is changing every day in public education.
Okay.
It's not, I could tell you today that we need to make sure that all kids have individualized resources, meaning they need their own pencils, their own crayons, their own glue, their own in a baggie. And I can guarantee you by midnight tonight, a community would have that available, but we won't need that tomorrow. We will need to make sure that everybody has a water bottle.
Okay,
Because
okay.
kids will not be able to go to the water fountain this year at schools, okay? If the school does not have automatic water fountain at their school where they can go fill up a water bottle,
And I'm sure there are a lot of schools that don't have that.
that's,
I'm sure there are a lot of schools
that
don't
could
have
be a blessing to a school that couldn't afford to install one of those at a school, the automatic water bottle
Right,
fillers,
right.
right? Because students, again, because of mask wearing and of not being able to share at schools, they're not able to use water fountains at schools this year. So,
So I'm hoping that somebody hears that. So there are schools in our communities that water will be an issue this year. Can't go to water fountains. So how do we address that? You know, if we can do a water fountain, and I don't know what those cost.
I can't guarantee what those cost, but I
But-
know that they're not something that you can go pick up at Walmart or Costco's. You're going to have to actually invest in that, and I should have that. But I know that those one things that kids rely on coming in from recess. I want some water, and you can't do it if you don't have a water bottle.
Right.
So, you know, like I said, those are just the tangible things. But we think about helping kids understand that this is a challenge for us on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
That they've got to be able to have some understanding, that knowing that we are doing the best that we can, right?
Right.
That, and people forget that they think that we're superheroes, right?
Right.
As educators, one point they used to say that we were the best thing that ever happened when parents had to start teaching their kids at home how to stay abreast of those. They need to also understand that educators are coming from their own families, and they just want to make sure that they are safe and they have a well classroom.
Right. Right.
And
right.
we talked about that, you know, not sending, because we are, I know that we say that we just want to push our kids to school because you've got to learn, but learning is going to be the least on kids' mind when they get back to school. So most of them have missed 2.5 months of being with their friends.
Right.
And
They're
just
gonna
understanding, helping, they want to learn how to socialize, right? So we've got to come up with some other ways to help kids be able to socialize via virtually.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
So one parent is asking, should we ask teachers if they need cases of water? Should we initiate that conversation if they need bottled water? Is that going to be an issue? Are they going to have cases pile up in the schools with, or is that something that individual schools can manage? But if they need it, should we be proactive in trying to help with that?
So we don't know until school starts, right?
Okay, okay.
Because you don't know what kids are going to be prepared of coming into the school, but it's always a great avenue to initiate conversations with the school administrator, along with PTAs and PTOs that are PTSOs that are helping schools navigate. Because here's the other caveat that others may not know in the community: you just won't be able to go up to the school anymore.
That's true.
You have to actually make an appointment to go to the school.
And they're going to check your temperature when you go.
Check your temperature. They're going to make sure you have on a mask. And I know that's challenging for people to know, well, I need to go get my kid You can't get your kid without having those criteria.
So,
or
yeah,
we're
I was
going to be
going to
sick.
ask you how that's going to work, because, parents are always picking up their kids early from school. They have dentists, doctor's appointments, all that kind of stuff.
So they're going to ask you to actually work around the school system, right?
Okay.
To make sure we can always make the ask, but I know it's challenging. But they will make you wait outside until they go get your child. You will not be able to enter a building in Knox County School System. So you thought we were on lockdown now, but we are now
Really
on
on
we're going to double down as it relates to people coming to the school system. You can't just get buzzed in anymore.
So appointment first. You have to call and make an appointment.
Let's call and make an appointment.
And then once you make the appointment, then when you get there, you can call them and tell them you're here, or you buzz them and say, I have an appointment at whatever time, and then they'll come and check your temperature before they let you in the building, and
Yes.
you have to have a mask on.
And you got to have a mask on. But this is what I encourage parents to do too, is make sure that your information in Aspen, if you never heard what Aspen is, you need to know
I
what
never heard of Aspen before. Can you give us a little?
So Aspen is
little
something.
breakdown of Aspen,
So
what that is.
Aspen is on the Knox County Schools website. That wherever, if when you got the phone calls that saying, due to inclement weathers and out of abundance of
Right.
precautions, that we're not gonna have school today. If you never received one of those phone calls, or you
Okay.
never received an email, it's because that information is not up to date. In Aspen for Knox County Schools. So it's the database that keeps all your information. And I know I'm one of those people too. I don't want them to know where I live. I don't want them to know my phone number.
Right.
I don't want them to know my cell phone number. But if you have a child in Knox County Schools, it's going to be imperative that you have your up-to-date information, because not only now will you get grades were coming out through Aspen. People didn't know that they could actually spy on their kids and see what's going
Yeah.
on in their classrooms through Aspen, because you would be able to see the grades that were posted by educators. But you need to have a working phone number.
So you
Don't
can
give
see what's going on.
I don't want to give Reverend Mark's phone number for my home phone number, and then the school system's constantly calling you saying, I need to speak to Tanya because your child's sick at school, and you're like, Tanya doesn't live here. I don't know. And so we're not able to get in contact with you. We need reliable contact information, because it's not that we're going to hold your kid all day long, because by law, it's abandonment. So, the school system, we have been nice.
Yes.
But in the midst of COVID, we may not be nice. We may start turning people over to DCS,
Oh, okay.
Department of Child Services, because it's neglect. And people didn't know it was neglect. When school lets out at 2:45, they thought that they could leave their kid there to 3:30. That's a no-no. That's a neglect. After 30 minutes, it's really neglect.
Right. Right.
But school systems kept your kids. And so we just want to make sure that is up to date.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I have one. So one parent is like, is there live videos? No, there's no live videos that you can actually spy on your kid while they're in school.
We would never put that in the classroom.
Yeah.
So me as president of the Teachers Association, no, because that is a HIPAA violation. And your kids would probably say it's a HIPAA violation that
they
you can
don't
see
know
my
either.
grades too. So, but that is privacy, because
That's funny.
there are kids. We've got to make sure that kids. They're cleared, that you send your social media papers back.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several parents that refuse to, if we have awards at schools, that we must move all those kids
To one
one
side,
side.
'cause they don't wanna
because
sign
they
it.
don't, and there's been schools that the school's been split half and half. We'll tell the school, the newspaper or the television stations, do not record those kids over there. Their parents did not release them, but you can record these kids over here.
Okay.
Make sure that the video, because they can be sued.
I can understand that.
Yes.
So, first day of school, half day.
Half day. It's supposed to be like a normal day.
Okay, but it's not.
It's not going to be a normal day, because I know there will be tons of questions from parents. But our primary focus is, one, so that they can see their teacher, right?
Okay.
You need to see them. It will be virtual, and face-to-face is the first day on the 24th.
So let me ask you, if you got a kid that's virtual, and let's say you got a kid that's going to school for whatever reason, what is it going to look like for kids that are virtual? How's that classroom? Is it going to be mostly emails, or are they going to have a live stream, or is it going to be where they're going to send them assignments and watch videos over, or is that up to the individual teachers and the administrators to decide that?
So there is actually a live person that is
Really?
going to be teaching. Those teachers that are virtual, there are designated teachers in every building in Knox County Schools that we've had kids that are not, so I was telling you there's 60,000, but there's 18,000 kids, so there's about 42,000 kids that are going back to our school
Right.
system. And they're all dispersed all over this district. So what our system had to do is go and say, at your school, Mark, we need at least one virtual teacher per grade level.
Okay.
Or we need at your school one for your whole school. So it depends on the number of students that are out at your school, depending on how many virtual teachers that we have. But those virtual there will actually be a body. There will not be any email, and that's why I said the Aspen should be up to date for them.
Okay.
Because for parents, they're getting those notices that school is starting, and if they're not getting these notices and your child is a virtual student, that's a red flag.
So that means class is going to start on time for virtual students.
Virtual students start at 8:00. There will be no excuse. 8:00.
8
So
o'clock.
that means for high schoolers, I know are notorious about I didn't brush my teeth, or I didn't have my. You better have your pajamas on, and you better log in because they're taking attendance.
They're taking attendance.
And it's a person. It's a person.
It's taking attendance.
It's not a computer. It's going to be a person that's going to do
So
that.
virtual is going to be someone on. They're going to be able to see you, and you're going to be able to see them. But they're going to be live. They're going to be calling your name, and you need to be able to answer.
You need to be able to answer. And there's a virtual principal that's a live person. And
Really?
there's a virtual principal for elementary and the virtual principal for secondary. So and if you're not on, between the principal and the social worker or the counselor, they'll be calling you, or they'll be calling the parent to say
find
that your
out why
child is not on there. So
Yep, I got one that likes sleep late, so I think that's gonna be good for him. So that's good information, because see, I didn't know that. So the virtual classes will actually have someone there. So if your child is going to be virtual, know that your child's gonna have somebody live.
they're going to have a live person.
That's great. That's
Every classroom has a live person. And those virtual teachers, they're in a school building. So it's not like they're at their home. They're actually in a school building.
great. Okay. One parent asked, how many students per teacher virtually?
So that is just like a normal classroom.
Okay.
It varies for elementary, it's anywhere from 1 to 20.
Okay.
For secondary, it's 1 to 25, but that has the max capacity of 30 or 35. But it's a classroom.
It's a classroom. Okay. Well, awesome. Someone asked also, who is the virtual principal?
Depending, so I have to go by memory.
Okay.
So
If you
for
don't have it, you can
elementary,
post it.
I believe elementary is Jennifer Garrett.
Okay.
For high school is the principal that used to be at the Career Magnet. And I can see her face, but I can't recall her name, but I'll have to post that one.
Okay.
I just know that those are both two qualified people they used to be principals in a brick and mortar building, but now they are over the virtual schools.
Okay. In middle school.
Middle school is secondary. It's considered part of secondary.
Oh, okay.
Middle school and high school are considered secondary, so they only have one principal.
Really? Okay. I
Yes.
didn't know that either. So
Yes.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
You guys have any more questions? We really appreciate the questions, even the comments. Very interactive. But we just trying to give you some basics of what to expect if you have a child or grandchild or niece or nephew going back to school. It's so important that we give you some information that will prepare you, because you really won't know till you get there what to
Yes.
expect, and every little bit helps. Again, I think one of the big takeaways for me is to make sure that if I had a child going back, that I'd have water available, because water fountains are not going to be available. And also just making sure if I have a child virtually that they are up, that they have that they are logged in, that they're prepared, because they're going to take roll and they're going to make sure. So there's 18,000 students that are going to be on Monday morning going to have to answer roll on their computers. So I think that's some real big takeaway.
And so also I know parents are always concerned about how safe is the school, right?
Right.
Schools are safe. We're still tweaking those safety measures every day, right?
Okay.
The governor had promised that he's going to send every educator a face shield, a mask, gloves, and hand sanitizers. We are still.
That yet?
We have not received those yet, but this district, Knox County Schools District, has done a great job about installing hand sanitizers in every school. So we took some resources of our own to actually help prepare teachers, and they made sure that every teacher has a mask. If they don't have their own, that one will be provided for them. And then I know that educators, because we may have some educators on here, along with parents, they're concerned about the disinfectant that they use. So I know that it says that you need to have goggles and gloves on to actually utilize this cleaning solution, but it's been diluted.
Okay.
I found this out yesterday. I was terrified when I got several emails from teachers saying that we were handed some hand sanitizer or some cleaning equipment for disinfectant, and it said that you got to wear goggles and gloves. That is not the case because it's been diluted. Before it's been sent out to
Okay.
for them to use. And just knowing that anything that you use that is a disinfectant or a sanitizer or a cleaning device, that you've got to always have some precautionary measures.
Okay.
So, but most people didn't know that once you use Lysol, that you're supposed to wash your hands. I mean, how many of us wash our hands after we use Lysol? I know I don't, because I'm notorious of wiping my nose and thinking, oh, that was strong, or wiping my eyes. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to wash your hands after every use. And so with any other disinfectant or cleaning or air freshener, you're supposed to do these precautionary measures, but it's not strong enough as in its original form. It was guaranteed to me by the assistant superintendent that it's been diluted. It's been diluted to the point that it could use, and the protective gear that we use in regards to our mask, it's not strong enough for that. But mask, you can keep your mask on, but needing goggles, we'd hope that people weren't going to spray themselves in the eyes. And
so we're not going to have a big mushroom cloud and it's going to eat through the floor and all that kind of stuff.
I'd pray not. If not, I'm just always going to revert back to the assistant superintendent and say, you said.
Oh, goodness. Well, I have one question. It says, if there are more than 20 students per virtual class, who will teach the extra students? And I think you said up maybe to 30.
It could be with a max of 30.
With
right?
a max of 30. So if you have more than 30 kids,
It takes on to another teacher. We'd have to employ another.
We'll employ another teacher. Okay.
Yes.
And
Try.
try to. Okay. And of course, this is a very fluid. This thing will change up and down. There will be problems. I need to say that. There will be issues. There will be challenges, and I think we need to be patient with our schools, with our administrators, with our teachers. We've never been here before. We've never been through a COVID before. We've never been through a pandemic. We've never had to wear a mask ever, and teachers have never had to do this before. So this is our first time, so I guess I'm going to say cut us some slack.
At least we weren't around 1918, 1920, when the first pandemic, and they've had some of the same challenges, but there's not too many people around when that pandemic hit, knowing that there are. And so I know you try not to be a pessimist, and I'm more of an optimist. I always think that you think good until something comes differently.
Exactly.
And we'd hope that favor would be turned on our community, knowing that it's going to take some patience. We're going to have some hiccups, just as Alcoa City Schools and Alcoa Schools went to school almost 3 weeks ago on us, and they had COVID cases in schools that assisted, because again, that actually went on in their school district. It's because sometimes we just don't communicate too effectively, but we just got to make sure that we do that.
I think we have time for just a few more questions. My question would be like, so let's say your kid is at school, or my kid's at school, and one of the kids in their classroom comes up positive COVID, what is the procedure? What's the process for that?
So that is a really good, that's a really good question, right? So we don't know actually, but this is what we have written. If a child in our class has contracted COVID, we would hope we would catch that before they even enter the school.
Right.
Okay, but remember we have to do the temperature checks. But, you know, I know what some of our parents that I've had educators say this. I'm going to give you 3 Tylenol, or I'm going to give you 2 Tylenol. You better go to school and be
Exactly.
quiet. And they could have COVID, right? So what the CDC and the health department says that if you are within 6 feet of someone, which they're going to be more than 6
We're more
feet,
than 6 feet. We're more than
because
6 feet.
you know our arms are like 3 feet apart, and so we'd have to actually be touching, not even touching, for us to be 6 feet apart. That if you've been around somebody not within 6 feet, longer than 10 minutes, that they're going to do what they call a tracking. They're going to go a COVID tracing or COVID tracking to see where was this child in contact with people and how long. So if your child comes in contact with it, you may get a phone call from the health department saying your child will need to quarantine for 10 days. And after the 10 days, when it's at the 7th day, if your child does not have a fever, within 24 hours, they can return back to school. However, say that your child contracts COVID, and pray to God that it doesn't happen, right? That you have the 10 days to see if they get it. You're going to have to be out for an additional, until there's no fever and no symptoms of coughing, diarrhea, running nose, those things.
2 weeks.
It's no.
Longer than that? Could be.
So that could go on for another week or so.
Okay.
So, but once you're symptom free or your tests come back negative, now you have 14 days from the time your test is negative before your child. And so that was the big stink yesterday that the governor brought up about liability, right?
So
Of trying to
you
make
gotta say
sure.
that again. You gotta say that again. Real, because I want you to say it because there are people listening because it just registered with me. So after a child is, go ahead.
So after a child has come in contact with somebody that's gotten COVID, they will do a tracing on the classroom. That means they will go back and start saying, was your child at least 6 feet away from somebody, and has your child been in contact with that person for more than 10 minutes?
Okay.
And if, yes, then you need to stay at home. You're going to have to stay at home for 10 days. At the 7th day, they'll say, do you have a fever? Is your child showing any symptoms of COVID within 10 days? That's really like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Friday and a Monday through Friday, that will be the 10 days.
Okay.
Because if you count the weekends, it's going to be 14 days anyway.
Exactly.
That they'll say, well, if they don't have the symptoms and they and you could come back to school if you don't have any symptoms.
But if you're positive,
But if you're positive, you're going to have to get tested.
right?
And it's going to show that the test, and you're going to have to be symptom free for at least 24 hours before you can actually be tested again. So people just think these are automatic days. Okay, 10 days, I was at home 10 days. I'm not symptom free yet after 10 days. We know.
Right.
So it might be 2 or 3 days later. So that's already like day 15. At day 15, you finally they finally show that you don't have any symptoms and you have a negative test.
You still have like 14 days.
Now, from that point, you still got to wait 14 days before you can come back to school. It's a 14-day quarantine.
At that point, they become a virtual student.
That will be a case by case, but I'm guaranteeing that the system may convert you over to being a virtual, if you're able to do that.
Okay.
If
you catch it, let's say, because you're gonna be out 3 or 4, maybe 5 weeks
Mm-hmm.
if you catch it, and then you have to wait. So at that point, could a parent request?
Yes.
Say my child is gonna be out due to a positive COVID test, just put them on virtual?
Yes, because they already have the device.
Exactly.
They already have the device. Just say, I need my child to make sure that they are able to do that. Now, granted, we don't want to set our children up for failure because if they're truly sick, don't switch them over because it's not going to penalize them one way or the other.
Right.
Just as like we had these waivers at the end of the school year. It's not going to be detrimental, but if they are well and they still got 14 days to go, I need my child to be on
Right.
virtual because we got 14 more days from that point, so that they don't miss any information.
Exactly, that's important. Another question from a parent: if a child is scheduled to go to school and then they get sick, do they become a virtual student, or is there a time frame that they have to miss? So let's just say they catch the flu. That's that's another big thing.
That's typical.
Kids are out a week or so, maybe more. Is there a specific time frame they have to be out before they are converted to a virtual student due to sickness, or is it just?
It's going to be a case by case again, because we don't know if a student has the flu or if they have COVID. Typically, kids get dropped from a role, or a caseworker starts checking up on them after the 10th day.
Okay.
Even really in the 5th day, a social worker starts calling. And some schools are so good, it depends on the size of the school. If you miss 3 days, the social worker's on your case. So they're notorious for that. So knowing they're not going to be off the hook. I know kids would think, well, I don't have to do any work, but they're just going to see if in actuality, and then that's where the resources will come, that the social worker will help you try to navigate what's best for your kid, not just mark them off, but they will actually assist.
Are teachers allowed to wear face shields during this time?
So that's one of the PPEs, or the personal protective equipment, that is guaranteed from the governor.
Okay.
Teachers can wear face shields. They just need to have that conversation with their administrator, right?
Okay.
I know that some administrators say, you're going to scare kids. Kids have seen it now. Or they prefer you to wear the mask. But if they don't have that, I always tell people they need to, if that's criteria or something is asking them to do that, we need to have some alternative measures for them to have on a face shield. Whatever you feel. I mean, now it's your personal. What do you prefer to do that? But the governor said he's going to send face shields to everybody.
Well, he says it.
He says, let's see.
So let's see. So, and we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. This has been a very good conversation. But I appreciate you, Tanya. I really do. I appreciate you.
No problem.
So I want to encourage you if to talk to your pastors, talk to your churches, find ways to help the schools in your community. It's important that churches get on board wherever your church is located, because the issue is that a lot of our churches are filled with commuter members. They drive in, they drive out of the community. But a lot of our churches are located in communities where there are needs. Mm-hmm. And I really need us to just think about getting involved. The schools will need us. They really will. The schools are going to need us. They're going to need us to partner with them to help provide additional resources for these kids going back to school. They're not going to have everything they need. Tanya is right. The governor said he's going to send us everything we need, but don't put your hope in that.
It's not here yet.
It's not here yet, and school starts in 4 days.
In 4 days.
In 4 days.
And so that that educators are going back resting on their own laurels, meaning that they've got to have all their own resources at this time. And that's what I said. COVID has opened up the ugly head of public education, mm-hmm. because we have been at a deficit for years.
Okay. Now one person said, I was told that no one could wear a face shield, but that comes from the governor. The governor said that we could wear that.
Well, he said he's sending it. So, okay. If your school, that's why we always ask people that wondering if you're a part of your professional organization, okay. So that we can find out the answers for you. But again, that's a case by case in regards to what your school administrator asks you to do at your school. But there's always, you have to do what you feel best for you. I mean, I tell people your classroom is your home. And if you feel safe of having a mask on and a face shield, that's what you're going to do. But you've got to make sure that you're teaching your kids. Right. It's not that I want you to butt heads with them, but you've got to do what's best for you. So if they've told them that they can't wear face shields, and if the parent or the community person is asking about their student not able to wear that,
Right. I think this is a teacher calling too.
I got you. Because
Yeah.
if it was a parent, so they will have to have measures in place to show that they cannot wear a mask, right? Because the number one thing is that we're asking people, the CDC and the guidelines saying that masks are required to squelch the curve or to help make COVID go away is keep on a mask of having these particles go out. But having just a shield on, I know that educators want to just have the shield on, but they need to realize that the bottom of the shields are open, so the fluids can come out from there. I know that people don't say that, well, I don't spit when I talk, or I don't. But the CDC says that shields should only be used when you're not equipped to wearing a mask. That means that you have to have a medical reasoning from your doctor saying that, because there are some people that just for instance, if somebody that just there are medical reasons why people, and I don't want to say, because then you see somebody with just a shield on, you'll think, oh, that's this person, they have this criteria. But no, there's various reasons why teachers only have a shield on. It's not just for one or two that I was going to mention, but I wasn't going to mention because there are different reasons why people just have a shield on.
Wow. Like I said, it's a lot of information. It's so much to go over in such a little bit of time. But I don't know how to thank you. I owe you one. I owe you more than one.
That's all right. Anytime.
So we're going to have you come back maybe soon, give us an update. Maybe
Yes.
how things are going, maybe halfway through the school year, come back, let us know how it's going, what are some real needs, what are some real issues. Let us partner, and I say let the faith community partner with the school system, because it will take all of us to get us through this.
That's it.
And I think it's important that if you don't have a church that's involved in a local school in your community, go to your pastor, go to your leadership, get involved, find something. If you don't do anything but maybe help provide water, do a fundraiser for water. But there are ways. I know we're socially distanced and we're not meeting in churches. All of us are not meeting in churches. But this is an opportunity to do ministry, to meet a need in the community. And our kids going back to school, they're going to need us.
That's it.
They're going to need us. The teachers are going to need us.
That's it.
I'm married to one, so and I hear firsthand of the needs of teachers and administrators and the students. So I'm imploring you, this is why this is so important. This is ministry. So now we take all of these best practices, these strategies, this information, and we become partners in this for the betterment of our communities and our schools. And I know you want to give a shout. Before I go, I'm going to let you give a shout out about the census. You said you want to give a shout.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
before we go.
as I just want to add on to what you were just saying about getting involved, but I implore the community and the faith community that we've got to start opening these bands of that takes a village. Our
Yes,
village was broken for a while, and it's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that our future is strengthened through our ministry and through our assistance. And so I appreciate you saying that we just need to get involved with the faith community, because, again, it takes a village, and part of the village is the faith community, making sure that they're putting something. But I do want to have the shout out about the census. So most of the time people think that doesn't involve me. And the census comes around every 10 years, and this is the year for us to be counted in the census. But if you have not completed the census, the deadline is approaching quickly. They had to extend it because in Knox County, there are only 68% of people have actually completed the census. That is not good, because when you think about what the resources that our schools need, what libraries need and hospitals need, every person that means from a newborn that's just took their first breath minutes ago to the one that is the ancient ones, like I say, people that are over 100 plus years old, and Lord bless them for still being around. we need everybody, because it's $1,200 per person that we lose in a community, to help resources being put back where they're needed. So if you live in an apartment building, or if you live with families, I know that we have multiple families living in households. Everybody needs to be counted. And you can go to the census.org, .com, I think it's .gov.
It's .gov.
Census.gov, and fill it out. I know that people got the reminders in the mail, but if you said, I moved recently, you can do it yourself. And if you can't, you can always call. You can always call, and they can fill it out for you online. And I know a great person in the community, Miss Vivian Shipe. If you don't know her, she is the guru about that, and she will actually help you make sure that you're counted for the census.
Wow. So that's another ministry, because communities that have lack of resources for schools and all that, it's because they don't fill out the census.
They don't fill out the census. Like, you could have had a library here in Lonsdale if they would have known the capacity of people that were living here. So if you were going back and looking and find out what they did 10 years ago, they would probably show that the community did not fill it out. And we've got to make sure that all of our communities of color fill it out, because they might not be able to interpret, but they have every language on there.
No excuse.
No excuse.
And
But we need that $1,200, because
really do.
just think of if we have 1,000 people in a certain area and they don't fill out that's over $1 million per in an area.
That's amazing.
And we don't need to lose those resources based on because we just didn't have time.
We lose out on so much because we don't think it's important, and that's why our communities are underfunded. And
Yes.
so much going on. We don't have time to talk about all of it. We can't fix it all tonight.
Yes.
But I appreciate you being a part of what we do. I appreciate Tanya. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
really do appreciate you coming.
And then my
I'm not
last
gonna-
plug is
I'm
that
not- okay,
we're going to have people vote.
Go ahead. Vote.
It's
Oh,
going to
yes.
have to be voting. We're going to have to be voting citizens. I've seen the most that people have voted in a particular district. When I live in District 15, but there for years we've only had 1,000 people vote. So I know that there were more than 1,000 people living in my district.
Mm-hmm.
There were over 5,000 people that voted in that district this year. So I'm telling people this is an important year. It doesn't matter who you're voting for. Well, it really does matter, but you need to vote.
We need to get out and vote.
We need to vote,
really do.
because that also makes a difference in our communities about we don't vote what we need, we vote what we want, and we need to start voting what we need.
Exactly. I agree. I'm not plugging any particular party. What I am
No.
plugging is that in my community, I'm going to support the person who's going to support our community, who's going to make sure
That's
that
it.
my schools are better, my roads are better, that I have access
And
to,
particularly
to
roads.
healthcare. Yeah, particularly roads. So I want to encourage everybody. You need to get out there, because the more you vote, the more active you are in the community, more people will, politicians take that serious. They see that, and you can hold them accountable for what they say.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I appreciate you.
Again, I thank you so much. And I see my technology person has posted census, or somebody posted census. Put a link out there too, if you don't mind. So if people view our page, we'll try to put a link so you can go and register through the uscensus.gov. It's very easy. It takes about 5 minutes to do.
Oh,
They
yes.
ask you just a few questions. So again.
It's less than 10.
Yes, less than 10 questions. So again, thank you for being a part of this community resource forum. We'll try to have it on every other month, or if there's a topic that comes up that you think we can discuss, I'd be glad to hear from you. Tanya, again, I'm thanking you over
This
and
is
over again.
awesome.
I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for being a part. This is where ministry matters, where we can make it, when we make it a part of the community. Again, thank you so much for being a part of all that we do to make our communities better. So wherever you are, try to make your community better. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. So before we go, I want to pray. I didn't get a chance to pray before, so I'm going to get a chance to pray now. So Father, we just bless your name. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this privilege of being able to make ministry relatable to those who are in our communities. Continue to bless our schools. Continue to bless Sister Tanya as she continues to fight for our teachers through her Knox County position and her state position. Pray that you cover her, give her strength, give her the ability to fight this good fight that we have. Bless all the teachers, all the administrators that are going to go back into the school systems next week. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to partner with schools, to do what we can do to help them. Bless the kids that are going to go back, cover them. I pray, God, that you continue to provide resources for our communities. Thank you again for this privilege to be able to go out and share with others what we can do, because ministry matters when we can take it and make it relatable to the people. Thank you again. In the name of our blessed Savior Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you. God keep you, and have a great rest of the day. And you guys will see you again next week. Amen.